known as America's Rabbi.
These are the 5 basic rules that God imparted to humanity.
And the man Time magazine calls one of the most influential evangelicals of our time.
Guides themselves will not acknowledge faith in American history. It's engraved in stone above their heads, and that's Moses holding the gold rice. It's not Moses with the 10 Commandments.
Make your day wonderful. Do it God's way.
Don't know, Jesus was Jewish. I know, shocker, right? Not only that, but he was a rabbi as well. Now this is important because the rich Jewish traditions, festivals, and teachings are essential for understanding God's plan. But today, this wisdom is lost as more people leave the orthodoxy of their faith to pursue a more liberal view. A view that today's guest says is not only dangerous, but has no place in either Christianity or Judaism. So, have we become a nation of watered-down believers? Well, today we find out. Our first guest is known as America's Rabbi. He's a best-selling author, and he is founder of Toward Tradition. Ladies and gentlemen, Rabbi Daniel Lapin. Thank you, Rabbi. So good to have you. Well, we're so blessed to have you today.
Well, thank you very much indeed. I'm thrilled to be here.
So now, do you live here in America or do you live in Israel?
No, as a matter of fact, I live in Seattle, Washington.
In Seattle,
yes,
Washington.
Indeed.
Okay,
yes.
So you can see Daystar in Seattle.
Wouldn't miss it.
So, you know, Daystar has been privileged to, we have been granted permission to be on Hot and Yes in Israel. And so we love Israel, and I know that we have so many people who support the many causes of Israel. And as Christians, it's important for us to support Israel because the Word of God says to do so.
But I think it's also important for American Jews to really understand that Israel's safety belt is really America's Bible belt.
Yes.
That the reason that America supports Israel is not because of the vast numbers of Jews in the United States of America, but it's because of the fact that there is this solid core of Christians who support Israel, and we need to understand that.
So now you understand that, and I think for the first time many of our friends in Israel are beginning to understand that. And I think one of the things we probably have to touch on is the fact that we have a history of a lot of bad blood in the name of God that was perpetrated against our Jewish brothers and sisters. And but today we can look at that history and say the Crusades, etc., were wrong and certainly not of God. But true Christians and Bible-believing Christians understand that, and also understand that the Jews are God's chosen people. So you understand that, but making our friends in Israel understand that is a whole new thing.
Well, it's complicated because it's not only in Israel, it's even here in the United States. You see, the problem is that, and I feel terrible about this because in many ways it reflects upon my own failures as a rabbi, but a large number of American Jews, probably a majority, have actually already abandoned the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and replaced it with the religion of secular fundamentalism.
So now how can you be comfortable talking about Christianity in America or even sitting here with me today?
Well, it's an honor to sit here with you today. And the reason is very simple. Look, there are a lot of things I know nothing about. I mean, the list of things I'm ignorant about, we could write a book about. But something I do know a little about is Jewish history. And it is easy for me to say, without any fear of contradiction, that never for 2,000 years have Jews enjoyed as tranquil and as prosperous and as welcoming a home as they've enjoyed these few hundred years in the United States of America. And that is precisely because America is a Christian nation.
Tell us about your foundation, Toward Tradition.
Torah tradition has as its function an alliance of Jews and Christians around that which we have in common, which is the Word of God.
Right.
And really I do believe that what divides Americans today, you're not supposed to call it a culture war, so can I say culture war on
You
the
can,
show?
you can.
Okay. What divides us here in America is not black and white, rich and poor, and it's certainly not men and women or Jews fighting Christians. What divides us in America today is those of us who believe that the Bible is God's message to humanity, the blueprint for life, and that is absolutely vital for our nation's survival. And then on the other side, you've got those who believe that the Bible is a made-up construct, and its entire purpose is to obstruct progress to some kind of ideal utopia. And there are Jews and Christians on both sides. There's blacks and whites on both sides, and rich and poor on both sides. And what I'm dedicated to is taking the Bible and saying, look, you've got to study this book. You've got to learn this book. And I want to make ancient Jewish wisdom accessible to everybody of every background so that they can see clearly for themselves this book has a message for how we need to live our lives in America today. It has a message for the vision of what America is going to be for our children and our grandchildren.
Let's talk about the Bible. Let's talk about the Torah specifically.
Yes.
Why do you believe, as I do, that this book is not only true, that it's literal, but that it was inspired by God? Why do we believe that?
I don't believe that. I know that. And there really is a very big difference. The big difference is that, I believe America would be better with a Republican president than a Democratic president. That's a belief I have. I also believe that Mount Rainier is the most beautiful mountain visible from any major American city. But these are just beliefs.
Right.
Speaking about the Bible as God's message to humanity, that is now a question of knowing. And you might ask, how I know it and why I know it. Well, that would be very much like saying to the greatest scientist in the world, look, do you believe that time changes when we move very rapidly, just the way Albert Einstein said it would? And he says, yeah, I believe that. You say to him, well, could you show us that it's true? And the answer is, well, yes. If you'd spend as much time as I did studying that, then you'd know it was true as well. Very complicated things in life don't just reveal themselves instantly and overnight, but people who actually spend time studying the Bible, those of us who devote ourselves lovingly to poring over its pages as you do and as I do and as those who watch the show do, very soon pick up wisdom there that is beyond human wisdom. Very quickly we see things that no human being could have put in there.
You mentioned Einstein, and history tells us that the theory of relativity was actually discovered as he read the book of Genesis. But for those who are listening say, well, it's just a book of fairy tales, and you hear so many people saying, oh, some of it's good, some of it you can discard. But how would you respond to that, Rabbi?
Well, the way I respond to that is I say you really need a rabbi. I mean, I think everybody needs a rabbi. It doesn't matter whatever their faith is. And if there are any people out there with no faith at all, they really need a rabbi, I think. And because it's very easy to see that much of the message is contained in the Hebrew language, the Lord's language, really.
Right. And
what I do is I try to make that accessible through my work so as that everybody can see that this is much more than just a narrative. This is a narrative in which is embedded and encoded vital material for our lives as men and women, as citizens, as parents, as children. All of these aspects of our lives are enriched by hardcore data, which is extracted from the Bible. None of it is just a fairy story, not a single word of it.
Well, I know you have, and I have as well, I have seen people's lives transformed by the Word of God. And one of those topics that we're going to talk about is the Ten Commandments. And, they may be the bedrock of the Christian and Jewish faith, but how many people know how vital they are to our very existence? After the break, a Christian and Jewish perspective. Stay with us. It's about to get real interesting, so don't go away. We'll be right back.
Experience the Daystar Television Network. Uplifting messages, high-quality programs, and more live events than any other faith-based network. Daystar, the way television should be.
Well, when Moses was given the Ten Commandments, who knew we'd have to invite two historical and theological scholars to help us understand them? Well, I did, and that's why I also invited the man Time Magazine calls one of the most influential evangelicals of our time. Please welcome best-selling author David Barton.
Joni, can I say something about Dan?
Yes, you can.
He's my rabbi. Everybody needs a rabbi. I mean, there's 66 books in my Bible, and 39 of them are out of the Old Testament. And
Yes.
I was just testifying recently at the U.S. Senate on an issue that dealt with faith. And to get brief for that, I called Rabbi Lapin and said, I need some help on this stuff. And so he really is so good. And he didn't ask me to do this, but I've got to do it. He's got this series of tapes called Genesis Journey. And it has absolutely revolutionized the way I look at the book of Genesis. And the one he has, Tower of Power, on the Tower of Babel. I mean, it just blew my mind away when he started talking about that the word coincidence does not appear in the Hebrew language anywhere, and there's a reason for that. And why is it that God got after Nimrod? Because he wanted to use bricks instead of stones. And, you know, I mean, things that I've never considered, and he just opens up. And it's so clear.
Okay, so now you've told me about
And
this.
it's
Are
just-
you going to send me some so I can have a copy myself?
You will love these.
I would love to. I
You will love
love
these.
that.
Thank
So
you, David.
talking about and we'll make sure and have your address at the end, so I know people are going to be just like
Every
me. So, well,
Christian
I want
needs
a
to get a
copy.
hold of
I
that.
want a copy. So we'll make sure and make
Good.
Rabbi Lapin's information available for you. So the Ten Commandments. Let's start with you, Rabbi, first.
Yes.
Why are they important to us today, and especially here in America?
Well, crucially important, and I think the best way to look at that from my perspective is that they're only called the Ten Commandments once in all of the 5 books of Moses, but they're actually referred to another 28 times, not as the Ten Commandments, but as the 2 tablets, which is very interesting when you think about it, because Moses is an 80-year-old man, and he's going to have to come down the mountain struggling with 2 big blocks of stone. Why couldn't he have written in a smaller font size? Just reduce the font size,
Right.
get everything on one stone.
I wondered that.
And that way it would have been an easier trip down the mountain,
Yes,
like this.
yes,
I thought,
yes.
how does the guy come down the mountain,
Right.
juggling 2 big...
Right.
You know, so
And then when he saw the golden calf, it was over.
it was all over. And yes, that's right. So there must be some tremendous depth and season. Sure enough, ancient Jewish wisdom, which I believe is my function to make accessible to everybody, reveals that it is on 2 tablets, because what we really are being exposed to here is even something much more important than 10 commandments. We're being exposed to 5 fundamental principles with an example from each of the 2 tablets. So in other words, commandment number 1 matches commandment number 6. Number 2 matches number 7, and so on and so forth, till 5 matches 10. These are the 5 basic rules that God imparted to humanity for all creative human interaction. And so, may I just give you one quick example
Yes,
from
please.
number 1? Well, the first commandment is kind of really a statement. It doesn't even really command you to do anything. It says, I am the Lord your God. You know, that's who I am. But then you've got matching that commandment number 6, which says, thou shalt not murder. What have those 2 got to do with one another? Well, when we have to relate to another entity, relating to another human being, the very first thing we have to do is concede that entity's right to exist. And so God announces his existence. I'm here, and that's it. And paralleling to that, you see, the first commandment points us vertically upwards towards God. The second set of tablets, the second tablet, points us to our peers, to our fellow people. So in the same way I have to recognize God's existence, on a human level I have to recognize the existence of all the people around me. The second commandment, the second one is no other gods.
Right.
Don't adulterate my relationship. Each relationship is special and unique. Now let's look at it on a human level. Commandment number 7 is the matching one on the second tablet. No adultery. Every relationship is unique and special. Don't adulterate it. Don't spoil it. And so we can go all through all the commandments, and we emerge with something that is so earth-shattering and so powerful and so obviously compelling that God makes possible every aspect of human creativity and bonding and joy by recognizing these 5 steps in building relationships, whether we are building them with God or whether we're building them with our family, with our friends, even with our politicians.
That's awesome. Do you all want to hear him do some more? So go to number 3 and just go to 3, 4, 5 if you can for us real quickly.
Well, sure.
Now you're teaching us. We're listening.
Well, that's all that a rabbi means.
This is why he's my rabbi. I'm telling you, man.
I've never heard it taught exactly like that.
That's great.
That's
Well,
wonderful.
listen, if you did, then you wouldn't need a rabbi, would you? I mean, that's...
Yeah.
I'm just trying to keep myself fully employed, that's all. And so, all right, well, number 3, if I may, if I'm not sort of taking up too much time here. The third one then goes on, and on the first tablet. Now, remember, the first tablet is pointing upwards.
Right.
And the second tablet is pointing horizontally. And
right.
Could that have anything to do with the original symbolism of the cross? I'm not a Christian theologian. I don't know. But this idea of we have a relationship vertical and we have a relationship horizontal, I'm not sure. I speculate about that. But the third one now is that don't take my name in vain. In other words, after I've recognized that the other entity exists, and then I've recognized that my relationship with that entity is absolutely special and unique and different from any other relationship. You know what I mean? I mean, have you ever felt manipulated by people? Have you ever been with people who you think are giving you the formulaic greeting and everything they're saying to you is exactly what they've said to somebody else a few minutes ago? They're not following that second principle that every relationship is unique. You can't adulterate it. It's special. And third commandment is don't take my name in vain. So not only do I exist, not only is my relationship with unique and special, but I have things to me that belong exclusively to me. In the case of God, it's my name. Now we match that with the second tablet. Second tablet now reads 6, 7, 8, so we're looking at number 8 now. The 8th commandment is thou shalt not steal. Aha. Now, on a horizontal level, I recognize another person's right to exist. I recognize my relationship with him or her is unique and special. And now I recognize that his or her possessions are unique and special. They belong to him and her. I can't steal them. Which utterly eliminates any possibility of communism or socialism being viewed as a godly, scriptural way of life, because they don't believe in private property.
And number 4?
Gosh, you really want a lot of punishment.
This is so good.
Well, number 4 is observe the Sabbath day, which it's kind of interesting. And David, one of the things I really wanted to talk to you a little bit about, I came across a book, just to sort of jump topics for 1 second. In colonial times, sometimes they used to observe the Lord's Day from Saturday night, starting on Saturday night, just as I do. I observe the Lord's Day on Saturday, starting Friday night, as the sun goes down. Reason, because in colonial days, and one of my favorite Bibles is the Ainsworth Bible, produced by the Reverend Ainsworth, a lot of Hebrew in there, and after each day of creation, at the beginning, chapter 1 of Genesis, what does it say? And it was evening, and it was morning. Day 1, and it was evening, it was morning. Day 2, evening comes before morning. So the day starts with the previous evening. I mean, it's extraordinary, but that's the Sabbath day.
That is the way they observed the Sabbath in colonial America. They started on Saturday night and they went through Sunday night.
That's why they did it.
So it was
that's exactly why they did it. But of course, we know they were all secular people.
That's right. They were all atheists, agnostics.
They didn't know about the strange book called the Bible, of course,
So then the corresponding with the 4th.
Yes, number 4 is observe the Sabbath day. Now, here's the point of the Sabbath day. When we observe the Sabbath day, what are we really saying? What we really are saying is that we are giving public testimony to the fact that we believe God created the world in 6 days and he rested on the 7th. And the reason we're giving testimony to that is that a 7-day week makes no sense. It messes up the whole calendar. What you really want is a 5-day week, because 5 divides into a 30-day month and it divides into a 365-day year, and that would mean that at the end of every year you could just wipe clean your plastic calendar, reuse it the next year. You don't have to rush off buy a new calendar. A 7-day week is madness. And the only reason we have it is one reason. God created the world in 6 days, and on the 7th he rested. It is testimony to that. The matching one, number 9, don't give false testimony. In other words, protect the reputation. Vertically, protect God's reputation as the creator of the earth by observing the Sabbath. Now, protect your friend's reputation. No false testimony about him either.
And number 5?
Well, that one is I've got to hold something back for another time. I'm worried we'll run out of time on that one. It takes a little bit longer.
Okay.
But
I'll get you back on another show for that one. But I got you the 4 and the corresponding, so we covered like 8 of them.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you. That was awesome. And so the 10 Commandments, that is definitely something that's been in the news over the last couple of years here in America. I mean, big attacks against the judge there in Montgomery, Alabama.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And whatever happened with him, by the way?
Well, with him, they did remove the 10 Commandments out of his courthouse. It's now on tour around the country. People can see that. And I think they have a permanent resting place to bring it back to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the 10 Commandments is so striking to me that if you want to find a copy of the 10 Commandments in America, you don't go into a church house, you go into a government house. You go, for example, inside the courtrooms. Inside the U.S. Supreme Court, we counted either 57 or 59 depictions of 10 Commandments inside the U.S. Supreme Court. It's across the nation. If you go to look at the U.S. Declaration, U.S. Constitution, you open the big old 10-foot doors in the National Archives, you step in and there they are, and if you look down, you're standing on the 10 Commandments embedded in the floor right beneath you. So in government buildings across America, we've recognized that as the basis of who we are as a people. I think one of the great anecdotes I remember, a good friend of mine here in Fort Worth, Dallas area, 95 years old, she's in prison ministry, and she's now deceased. But she was everybody's favorite grandma, and you know, white hair, everybody loved her. And you get in the prisons, a lot of times, guys that are in there a long time, because we provide free education, they get education up to the doctoral level. A lot of them get their law degrees while they're in prison. Mm-hmm. And we call them jailhouse attorneys. A lot of times they turn around and sue the state while they're in prison, whatever. and so one of these jailhouse attorneys took her, 95 years old, took her under her arm and said, "Mama Esther," he said, "do you know there's 100,000 laws that'll put you in jail?" And she looked back at him and said, "You know, there's 10 laws that will keep you out of jail." You know,
that's about the best way you can say it.
And that's why it hangs in our courtrooms. If you can live by those standards, you will have a stable society. You will have a blessed society. People will interact well with each other. 10 simple standards that God has erected there, those 2 tablets. I mean, you live by, that's why we hang in our courtrooms. That's what makes a civilized nation.
It makes not only that, but like you said, it keeps you out of prison. It keeps you out of trouble. If we would follow the 10 Commandments, would this world be a better place?
Well, I think the reason America is a better place than almost anywhere in the world, the reason that we have a 3-part system of government is Isaiah 22, verse 33. I'm the Lord, I will be your lawgiver, I will be your judge, I will be your king. The executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. The founders got it out of the book of Isaiah. Do you know that 98% of all the scientific and technological and medical advances of the last 1,000 years took place only in out of Christian countries and Christian scientists? You like Novocaine? That came out in the West because of the Bible and because of Christianity, because of that first opening sentence. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth.
So now, were you troubled as you watched some of these battles take place over the last few years where people are trying to have the 10 Commandments removed from not only judges' court, but from schools, etc.? I mean, it's unbelievable.
I'm terrified, not just because of faith. I'm terrified because removing the 10 Commandments jeopardizes everything we cherish about modern life in America today.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, is there a war on faith in America today? Well, after the break, we're not going to mince words. We're going to tell it like it is, and some may not like what they hear. So stay with us. Final thoughts are coming up. It's a war no one hears about, the war on faith. But how real is it? How real is it, Rabbi?
The war on faith is as real as the air we breathe. Look, in the last 18 months, there have been over 20 major books published attacking Christianity. And it's really significant. There is a state religion in America today, as you know. It's called secular fundamentalism. And it believes the three basic tenets of faith. It believes where we came from, a lengthy process of unaided materialistic evolution turned baboons and chimpanzees into you and me. That's their belief system. And their belief system is that the end of days is going to be global warming and destruction and hopelessness, whereas we believe God will bring a great new beginning. You see, it's interesting. Secular fundamentalists are not attacking Islam. It's funny, they're not scared of Islam. They're not attacking Buddhism. They're not attacking Hinduism. Do you know what the real danger in America today? Christianity. That's the real danger in America today.
Wow.
That's how they see it.
What about it, David?
I just go even to the Supreme Court. Now, we've had a real change with our 2 new justices there. And by the way, that means we still only have 4 good justices. We got 4 good, 4 bad, and 1 big squish right in the middle. But that's better than we've been in a number of years.
Who's the squish in the middle?
Justice Kennedy. And right now, he's been with us in a number of decisions. He had not been previously, so hopefully he's on the good side. But as I mentioned in the court, they've got more than 50 depictions of the 10 Commandments, one of which is up over their head in a frieze, with Moses in a flowing robe, with a long beard, holding 2 tablets, and they're numbered from 1 to 10 in Hebrew. And as you go through and take a tour of the Supreme Court, the guides, if you say, is that Moses, the 10 Commandments? They say, no, that's Moses holding the Bill of Rights. Really? I've never seen the Bill of Rights in Hebrew in my life.
I didn't know Moses did that too when he came down off the mountain.
You know, I thought that was 4,000 years earlier. And so even the court guides themselves will not acknowledge faith in American history. It's engraved in stone above their heads, and that's Moses holding the Bill of Rights. It's not Moses with the 10 Commandments.
You know, it's interesting. When the Muslims attacked Spain, what is the first thing they did? They ripped out the crosses off all the churches. It's interesting that as secular fundamentalism is attacking America, they realize they have to strip away the symbols of faith. The 10 Commandments must be pulled out from every possible public venue.
So what do you say about this president? What do you say about this war on terror?
Well, I believe that we are fighting perhaps the most dangerous and fiendish foe that we've ever had to confront. And it's an enemy that is fueled by a faith. Now, I personally, forgive me, I don't mean to offend anyone, I do not believe Allah is just another name for the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Right.
I do not believe you will ever see somebody slit the throat of an airline stewardess with the words, in the name of Jesus Christ. That's not going to happen.
No.
We're talking about another faith. And we are being attacked by another faith. And I believe that if we're going to stand any chance whatsoever, we need to make sure that our faith, Judaism and Christianity, is alive and strong and allied. I believe that's our only hope.
Well, that's all the time we have for today, but we want to hear your opinion about this program. So you can go to our website, send us your thoughts, and also we'll have Rabbi Lapin's information up. You can click on Joni, and if you'd like to give or to get the 10 Commandments teaching that you heard him talking about earlier that I got him to share with you, then you can do that as well as your other books, The Gathering Storm, Decoding the Secrets of Noah, and Thou Shalt Prosper. All great, great resources you recommend, David, and also your book,
Original Intent.
Original Intent. So we want to thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much. Bye-bye for today.
This has been a Daystar Television production.